Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we were invited up north to Chico, California for AMain's 20th anniversary. Not only that, they've got a new building and it's pretty rad. Check this out. So not only are we going to get a tour of the new facility, we're also going to get a chance to race. You know, we can't pass that up. We didn't bring any cars up. We decided to run rental cars from the facility just to kind of like have a good time and not be super competitive, but I've already run on the track and I'm already super competitive. Anyway, let's go check out the new facility and we'll get to some racing later. We weren't the only ones to be invited to this grand event. Josh from Harley Designs, Asian from Street Outlaws, Haley, the RC Girl, and Francis from RC Reviews also got the golden ticket to come check out the new digs. Once everyone got settled in, the tour began with a stroll through one of the biggest hobby shops around. The lobby has almost every vehicle on display that AMain carries. Nothing is in the box. You have the opportunity to pick it up, feel the tires, test the suspension, and get a close-up look of all the cool body designs and styles. Not only is the brand selection massive, Axial, Traxxas, Vanquish, Element RC, RC 4-wheel drive, and Sen, to name a few, every scale and vehicle category has also been accounted for. But wait, there's more. AMain also has a nice selection of boats and aircraft on display as well as a large paint selection. And if you want to do some shopping while you're there, you can use this kiosk to place an order and it will be pulled and brought right to your pit space. Who else does that?
Unveiled look it doesn't happen very often. You can kind of see behind the curtain of how this all goes down, both on the RC and the cycling end and the games and the things like that, and you're going to really kind of get the wow experience. And Tim will kind of lead us through, and you can ask Tim any questions, and he'll give you maybe some details of things that came along with both the build of the building and then the moving from the previous warehouse into this warehouse. And then keep in mind, this is now one of 3 DCs that we have. We have Lincoln, Nebraska as well, and then of course in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, Kendall, you want anything else you want to add to it?
Yeah, I'm going to have a track in North Carolina Sunday.
Well, you just put that on camera.
Yeah.
After a brief introduction by brand developer Troy Hansen and AMain owner and visionary Kendall Bennett, we were shuffled through the doors to the main warehouse. This 50,000 square foot building is more than just a storage facility for product. It also serves as the assembly plant for the bike portion of the business, Performance Bicycle. The amount of product is really overwhelming. AMain has an amazing inventory system to manage the rows and rows and rows and rows of your favorite items that can be pulled, boxed, and shipped in a matter of minutes. Which, if you actually saw how many items were on the shelves, makes this quite an amazing feat. Next up was a walkthrough of the offices. We got to see AMain's photo studio, print and vinyl room, as well as a few other areas. Now, the next 15 minutes of this video is all about AMain's timeline, the history of the store. It's a bit long as we included the whole thing for you to check out. We hope you find it as fascinating as we did.
Brandon's brother was actually the very first customer. Showed up and bought a kit and an engine from me. And then we quickly realized we had to move out into a proper facility because we had people showing up at 10 p.m. at night and running out with baggies. You know, like the neighbors think we're selling drugs or something. So, but this tree is way bigger than when I lived there. That thing was like, that thing died twice. And then they finally got it to work.
So between 2004 and 2012, what was the #1 thing that expedited the growth? Was it a continuation of SKU acquisition, or was
It's
it
a combination of that. One of the things we did very, very early on is that because I was a racer and I was scratching my own itch, it was really important to me to carry every part. So many people would cherry pick what they carried. So if I was going to carry the Mugen buggy, or if I was going to carry the Yaman buggy at the time, that was one of the few things that I could actually get back then. We carried every single part for that to make sure that you could actually support it. Even every little nut and bolt and screw, and so many other manufacturers out there, or other dealers out there, would basically just carry the breakables, like they carry the arms, they carry this. And it was really important to me to have all those parts. So that was a big thing from the start. I think Richard Saxon asked me that years ago. It's like, what do you think makes a difference? Like, we carry every part.
so
don't
it
cherry
was
pick
the
it.
number of products you carried, and then how you broke
And in
it
the early
down?
days, we didn't carry a huge selection of stuff because we couldn't get a lot of the product back then. We couldn't get Losi product back then. You know, there's a bunch of things we couldn't get. But we did so good with the stuff that we did carry that when people knew we were carrying a kit, then we carried all the parts that they needed to do that. So we carried all the stuff they needed for racing. So that was a big part of it.
Yeah, and I think in our industry, having the real-time inventory, which is
Real-time
like,
inventory
if
was
you see
huge.
it available on the website, that means we had it.
And you got it.
And that was rare back then.
That was super rare back
Okay,
then. In fact, when we
understood.
first, I did that from day one. It
Okay.
wasn't like, not a lot of automation and everything back then, but it was real time. It would decrement it. If your last one was out of stock, it would go to red backorder buttons.
That was rare. It's rare now.
And it's rare now. And I remember distinctly, there was a guy who bought an OS V-Spec when we first started carrying OS engines, and it was at this place here. And he called me up in a panic. He's like, dude, I just bought an engine on the website, and now it says it's on back order. And I said, yeah, you got the last one, man. You're
I
good.
gotcha.
Because he was tripping.
It was accurate.
But that's part of the reason we started it too, because I was one of those same people. I'd order my stuff on Sunday,
Yeah.
and they called me on Thursday and say we didn't have it.
Understood.
And I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
It's like now I'm in the panic to try to get my stuff to race on the weekend.
You
So,
seem to fix that.
yeah.
Okay.
So that was a big part of it. So we were in this one. This one, my first company was a software company. So I started computer software. That's what I love doing. Computer game stuff. If anybody ever played computer games in the 90s, ever played Quake, things
Yeah,
like that.
sure.
All the time.
Yeah, I actually did the port of Quake to Windows. I went to id Software and did that. So we did computer software, and I was in this one over here, and then we needed more space, and I needed to do the hobby shop, so we moved into the one next door and took over the second building. This door wasn't there before. This was just a wall. I think it was a window, actually. So we took over the whole thing, and the hobby shop was in this little tiny spot right here. And then I think like probably, how long, not that long.
Yeah, maybe
A year later,
5 months.
like the software company was crammed into this little tiny spot right here. We had fuel in the kitchen, we had like magazines in the restroom. It was like just fully packed. And then we had to move out, so we moved into this guy right here, which was this one. In House Drive, that was 9,000 square feet.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
9,000.
And we thought,
How are we ever?
how are we ever gonna fill this up?
Yeah.
But I could see the writing on the wall. When I moved into this one, the people that own this building, I said, I need to know how to get out of this lease because I want a 5-year lease. I'm like, I'm not going to be here 5 years. And they're like, yeah, whatever. I was like, well, what can you do? It's like, well, we're builders. You know, we've got lots of buildings all over town. I said, okay, cool. I will sign the lease, but if I need to move out, you need to find me a building. And they said, okay, cool. So a year later, I called them and said, hey,
Wow.
we need to start moving. And then we were in there about 2 years, I think. And then we moved to the Otterson Drive location.
Crazy.
So, yeah, that one there. And that particular building, when they first showed it to me, we didn't actually have, it was actually office internally. The warehouse was actually office. And I looked in there, I'm like, nah, this is not gonna work. But they kind of realized this could be a good fit for us. So they demoed the entire inside.
Wow.
And then they came back and said, hey, what do you think now? I was looking, oh, okay, this could work, this could work.
Yeah, nice seeing.
And then they had this section back here, that was a big room. And they said, yeah, we haven't finished demoing this thing right there. I'm like, wait. That could be a racetrack right there. So that was the original Outback Raceway. We just told them to leave that room and had air conditioning and everything in there. So the first racetrack was actually carpet, which is where my love of Honoré came from. And we ran on that for like 3 seasons, I think. And it completely died because we had, if anyone was racing back then, especially in on-road, that's when the speed control started doing boosting. It destroyed our track. Like every week there was some new speedo came out, and if you didn't have that speedo, and none of these things were programmable back then. So if you got one of those Speedos and someone else came out with a new one, that was it. And I went to race at the IIC right before we closed our track, and I was running 13.5 World GT pan car. Came onto the front straightaway, and this dude's like,
Speed control.
I'm like, what the heck is? Oh, that's the Castle Black Mamba. And it's like, how do you get that? Well, it's not out yet. I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Not yet.
And literally that season, I showed up to our club racing that one weekend, and it was like JT and me and our race director, and no one else showed up. And so the next weekend, we ripped it all out and we put it in the dirt. That became our indoor dirt track. And then thankfully, Raw got on the bandwagon, and we did blinkies and did stock, and it's so much better. Because 17.5 boosted, it was like crazy fast.
Nice.
Like it was almost as fast as mod.
modified, yeah.
It was
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. So now we got better stock. So yeah, that was that building. We lasted there for quite a while. This was interesting because we moved into this building October 2008. We opened the retail store at the same time, and then the economy crashed. So that was fun. I remember telling people at the time that flat is the new growth curve. It's like if you can keep your sales flat right now, you're way ahead of the game, because everything was just like. So we actually managed to, I think we got like 3% growth or something that year in 2009. So we were way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, say if you can do 51%, you won't go broke.
Yeah.
Right.
And then in 2011, we opened this guy. My goal was to get the World Championships for ASCO. Didn't succeed at that one. We got the World Championships in 2013, so that's the Silver Dollar Fairground. We did do the World Championships in 2013 for the Electric Worlds. That's the Electric Worlds track right here. That was really fun. Adam probably remembers Sugargate. So we got a lot of rain because for whatever reason, Raw always seems to think, well, IFMA always wants to have the World Championships around about like October, November timeframe, which in this area is like rain territory. Had a beautiful track layout done. Kevin Gillett did an amazing job, and then it just dumped with rain. It just poured and poured and poured with rain. Well, they went out there and they just busted their butts to get this thing completely done. You can still see where some of the rain is in there.
Right.
But that's actually sugar. So part of the problem we had is that we did a lot of testing on the tires. So Chad and I were out there for hours and hours testing tires, trying to figure out what tire is going to be the best for this track. And it's a world championship, so they want to run it dry. So it has to be even for everybody. So we went through the whole process of trying to pick a tire, and we tested it after we'd run one of our big 8-scale races. And so the track was really grooved in. Lots of 8 scales out there, a lot of castor oil on the track, had really good traction. So we picked the tires that was going to work. It still ended up being a really good tire for the track. But the track was good. After we built the new track, Kevin wanted to make it like glass smooth as everything, just keep a really amazing track for the Worlds. So people get there to race on the track, and it's just like donut territory. There was no traction. So we're like, it's okay, it just needs to break in, right? Normally that's what would happen on an 8-scale race. It would break in. Problem with 8 scales, you got a lot of heavier cars on the track, you got castor oil coming out. Over time, it grooves up, you get good traction. 10 scales, the cars aren't heavy enough, you don't put enough rubber down, there's no castor oil. And it was like, it just was not grooving up. And there was a big manufacturer meeting, and the manufacturers all got together and so what should we do? Said, we want you to sugar the track. Okay. So I raced off to Costco, I think we bought 2 pounds
Literally
of sugar.
Okay.
We got the big backpack things out there, sprayed the whole track down, and then made the sugar track.
What does the sugar
The traction
do?
was like, it makes it really hard, but it also gives really good traction. The traction was crazy.
Yeah,
Granular.
Just like the grip.
Yeah.
The grip is
basically like putting
incredible
sand
on
up
sugar.
and
Yeah.
The caveat is the tire wear is a lot higher.
I got
Which is
you.
why we didn't want to sugar the track the first time.
I got
The
you.
tire wear is high, so it'll eat tires for breakfast.
Huh.
But hey, it's a world championship, so.
I gotcha.
That's what we did, and then there was like a big fuss about it. A lot of magazines like freaking out, like Sugargate, et cetera, et cetera.
Sugar Day?
It's like, we kind of had to do it. It is what it is.
It wasn't your choice.
It wasn't my choice.
wanted it,
Manufacturers
right?
picked it. Yeah, that's what a lot of people didn't understand. Is like it wasn't actually us picking it. I think it was every single manufacturer except one manufacturer decided they wanted to do it. So that's what we did. And then we bought a bike shop because I was into bikes.
Of course.
I wanted to do something different. So we bought Cycle Sport with the goal of doing the bike shop. Then we moved it across town. We relocated it to here and renamed it AMain Cycling because we were trying to build our brand. So somewhere in this period here, we made the fatal decision of following what people told me would work and said, let's put everything on AMain.com. So we had one domain. So we went to do bikes and everything. How do we get bikes to work really good? Let's put it on one website. Everyone tells you that's what you can do. So we basically redirected AMain.com, AMainHobbies.com to AMain.com.
Oh.
Disaster.
Yeah.
Wasn't good.
What was the reason why it was a disaster?
Well, nobody really fully understands the reasons why, but I know why.
Oh, okay.
Google basically is buggy. So Google search engine doesn't work correctly. And it looked like, the simple way of explaining it, and I actually asked the SEO guys about this when I first saw it, and they said, no, don't worry about it, it's nothing. Google was actually incorrectly attributing the links from the old website to the new website. And so when I'd log into Google and look at it, it said that there's 2 million backlinks from AMainHobbies.com to AMain.com. It doesn't exist. The website's not there. What's going on? And I asked the SEO guys, well, don't worry about it, it's nothing. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, no. It looks like a link farm.
Yeah.
If you're a link farm, Google downgrades you. So when we switched, we could not get the traffic back up on that domain.
Gotcha.
And on top of that, the customers kind of freaked out because all the RC customers like,
What did you do?
what's this bike stuff?
Yeah.
I don't want bikes on my website. It's like, you move my cheese.
Okay, yeah.
So that was a combo double whammy in that
Understood,
respect.
okay.
So after a little while, I actually realized what the problem was, and that's when we made the decision to go back to AMainHobbies.com.
Understood. Where the
Put
backlinks
everything back on
existed.
AMainHobbies.com.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Redo the website for the bikes
Separate.
on its own domain.
Let it build it separate.
Try to build it separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we realized that the SEO guy said, if you do this, you have to go buy somebody's website domain.
With backlinks.
Yeah, with backlinks.
Yeah.
Because it just is really hard to build a brand
History.
from scratch.
Yeah.
And this is like back in 2004, it was easy, but this is like 10 years later. So we knew that. So we rebranded AMain Cycling. It did okay. We actually did really good in the local area because we did a lot of team stuff and things like that. So it actually did really well. But it just didn't do good on the internet.
Interesting.
And then Performance Bike went bankrupt. Where was that at? So Performance Bicycle was going bankrupt. And then Kevin wandered in my office one day and said, hey, I heard Performance Bike's going bankrupt. We should buy the website domain. So we went out to the East Coast into Raleigh and went through this whole bidding process with a bunch of other bidders. We were bidding against Head, the ski company, because they wanted to do bikes. They actually already had a bike company. And then we got in with this conglomerate of other people. There was like a Chinese factory bought all the bikes brands, and then someone else bought all the inventory, someone else bought all the buildings, and we bought the website domains, so we kind of all got together. So we scored the website domain and the customer list, and that's when we launched our bike website, and then it's so much better. So we finally got to do what they said to do all along, which is to go buy somebody, and we just couldn't do it in the early days.
Good advice.
So yeah, and that's the original logo of our first retail store. So this is the If My Worlds. So I raced the If My Worlds. I don't know if anyone's ever managed to match my feet, but I think I came last in two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. So dead last.
But you got the participation.
You got the overall.
Yeah.
Participation
It's a
trophy.
better story.
So Hobbytown is a franchise of hobby shops. They're all independently owned hobby shops. And our mission is to get those guys healthy because that's where we get all the growth in the hobby industry. They come from they bring in all the new customers effectively because the hobby shops. So it's really important to us to maintain that because we've got to maintain the size of the industry. So our goal with these guys is to make them better at doing their business, help them bring eyeballs in. The entire front door of the hobby shop today is the internet. And that's the big sea change that's happened over the last 20 years. It's a long time ago, people would walk in the front door to look for new stuff. They already know what they want when they're looking today. They've already found it on the internet. 90-95% of all transactions today in brick and mortar stores started on the internet somewhere. And so it's super important that we can actually get their visibility on the internet through their website. So that's a big part of what we're doing here. And giving them really good business intelligence tools to help them be better people, spend less time ordering and more time doing things that are actually going to be beneficial to the business because the way the stores run today, they spend a lot of time every single day doing mundane tasks.
Right.
So my goal is like we did here is like how do we automate the mundane stuff so you can actually spend more time doing the things that actually matter. So, and then of course we just built this amazing facility here. So,
There's a lot of black space here.
yeah, I guess that's the future, right?
Right? I like.
Someone's planning for the future.
The final journey of the tour took us to another part of the building where AMain has built a number of different RC areas for you to both race and play on. The first was an enormous 2,200 square foot carpet track that they used to race both on-road and off-road. It's 120 by 62 feet in size, and for this event, they split the track down the middle so we could race both programs at the same time. We raced on-road on the shortened track and it was a blast. We're ready, however, to head back to try the off-road. Just off to the side was also a sizable drift track laid out with barriers, bushes, lighting, and a mini AMain building right in the middle. It was really cool to see all the different drift cars sliding around the track. A small crawler course was also in the area with lots of rocks and bridges to traverse. And, although we didn't get any video of it as it was still in the works, a 1/10 scale crawler course was being built outside the building. The final track on the premises was a 45 by 95 foot dirt oval. The lanes were a massive 14 feet wide and it was super smooth. We'll be giving this a go next time we visit as well. The rest of the building was lined with rows and rows of pit spaces, plenty of area to house any large events that are sure to make their way to this facility. We'd like to thank AMain Hobbies for inviting us to tour their new facilities. We had a great time, both racing on the tracks and hanging out with our new friends. Until next time.